If you were exploring some of Excel's many functions and you went to the Formula tab and were looking at some of the math and trig functions, your eye probably wouldn't drift toward the mod function. And if it did, you might look at its description and say, returns the remainder after a number is divided by a divisor. Why would I ever use that? Well, there are at least two situations where you might. In this current worksheet, we've got a list of our items. Say we're about to move our warehouse. We've got a number of items in stock here. And in order to move these, we have to put them in the appropriate containers that they were originally produced for. So we've got 162 items in row 2 here for this particular item number. And if we put these in boxes, the boxes that we use for this item hold 16. How many will we have left over if we put all these in the boxes? And you can probably do the math in your head for some of these. Divide this by 16. What do we get? It's going to be 10, but we'll have a remainder of 2. So we want to know for each of these items, if we put them in their appropriate containers, and all these different items here have a different storage amount, and certainly some of them are the same as each other, but we see the differences there. We'll use the mod function to, in effect, say, take this value here, comma, divide it by this, and don't give us the answer of the division, but give us the remainder. The example here, it's going to be 2. As we do this for the rest of these, we'll simply double-click. So now we have a list of how many items we will have remaining. And of course, in some cases, maybe none, because we've got just the right number here. This example, we've got 168 items in stock. The boxes hold 24 each. Well, that's times 7, so we'll have nothing left over. But we see all the other items. So all we're doing is calculating the remainder in a division. Now, another use of mod is a more creative use, perhaps, and it involves using conditional formatting. Suppose this list is going to grow, or imagine in any different worksheet that you're working with, it might be better if every 5th row were yellow, every 10th row, every 3rd row. Make your own choices there. Now, if you've turned this into a table, you will get that so-called banded look of every other row, but you might not want to use the table feature, and furthermore, you want your own color scheme, and you want it to be every 5 rows or 6 rows or something like that. Now, we could do this for the entire worksheet or just for columns A through D. It doesn't make any difference. If we want to do this for the entire worksheet, we'll simply click in the upper left-hand corner, selecting the entire sheet, and then go to the Home tab and use conditional formatting. And what we use here is not one of the standard features, but a new rule, which will actually be a formula. And the new formatting rule, the rule type will be use a formula to determine which cells to format. What we're about to do in English is to say, if the row number is evenly divisible by 5, we're going to make it be, for example, yellow. So the function is equal mod. And how do we refer to the row number? There's a function called row. And if we follow it by simply an open and close parentheses, it refers to the current cell, comma 5. So for every given cell in this worksheet, as we consider it and divide its row entry by 5, when that calculation leaves us with a remainder of 0, then we want that row to be yellow. So that only happens when the row is 5, 10, 15, 20, etc. Got to be evenly divisible by 5 when there's no remainder. I'm going to highlight this, press Control-C so we can display it larger in a minute. We're going to use the format here. Any format we want, of course. I'll simply use a bright yellow here, and we could use other techniques, border techniques too, if we wanted to. But we'll simply click OK, and OK again. And there's what we see. Now, the formula in place, and I'll put it up here temporarily, is what we see right there. And if we wanted to make this every 4th row, of course, we change the 5 to a 4. Every 4th row could be yellow or green or whatever it is we want it to be. As long as this is in place, and typically you wouldn't put the formula there, but that's just a reminder as to what we used. In a real-life situation, what happens if I delete a row here? I'm going to delete row 4. We don't need that data there. We don't need the row or anything in it. I'm going to delete it, and automatically the display readjusts so that every 5th row is now yellow. So the data moved up. The color was not associated with the data. It was associated with the actual row number. Throughout this entire worksheet, no matter how big or small it gets, every 5th row is yellow. And if we wanted to make a quick adjustment here and say every 4th row, fine. We'll click in the upper left corner, go back to conditional formatting, manage the rules, and here's our rule. We'll edit the rule, change the 5 there to a 4, click OK, and OK, And now every fourth row has the highlighting. We changed the 5 to a 4. And if we were doing it right here, we'd emphasize that by making that be a 4 to represent the current conditional formatting formula that's in place. So the mod function does have its uses. Earlier, we saw a day-to-day example of how you might want to calculate the number of items left over in packing. And then we saw here this conditional formatting technique, both using the mod function.